Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from the East Coast of the United States here in Florida. Hopefully everyone's doing well. My name is Jesus Nava, and I'm the Director of Client Training and Education. Thank you, everyone, for joining me in this Introduction to EasyLanguage. The purpose of this class is to demonstrate the potential that you can achieve with TradeStation when you use a little bit of EasyLanguage. EasyLanguage will open a host of possibilities that will take your market analysis and strategy testing to the next level. But before we get started, I would like to describe some of the technicalities of our broadcasting tool that we're using today. On the left-hand side, you can see that I'm joined by Michael Burke. He's going to serve as today's moderator. So as I go over the material, if you have any questions, please submit them through the chat window, and he'll be standing by to answer those questions as best as he can. If your question is not answered, please be patient. There's close to 100 people connected in this class today, and we're going to do our best to answer all the questions that are here. I already said about the chat window at the bottom. Just be aware that every comment and every question that you submit through the chat window is visible to everyone in the class. If you have any trouble during the presentation, let's say that you start losing the sound or the image appears distorted, there's a blue X on the top right of the player that allows you to reload the page. So use that whenever you have any technicalities. And if it persists, you should be able to log off from the room and log back in. That usually fixes all the problems. We have some great online events coming up. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about everything that we've scheduled for all our TradeStation users, but when you get a chance, please visit our live webcast schedule. I've sent the link through the chat window, live webcast schedule, and you'll see a list of everything that we make available. A lot of the events that are there are free, so we do encourage everyone to take a look at all the events that are upcoming so that you can register for them in advance. One of the events that I am going to point out today is our upcoming EasyLanguage Bootcamp and Implementing Objects in EasyLanguage. These are EasyLanguage specific seminars. Each one of these seminars is a 2-day seminar, so you get 5 hours each day. So it's a total of 10 hours of EasyLanguage instruction. And for being here today, we are extending a $50 discount to everyone in this class. So feel free to use the coupon that is available in the documents section. I'm going to go ahead and send it to the chat window as well. There's a $50 discount towards the registration fee of any of these classes. As I said before, today's class is just an introduction. It's just to give you a little taste of what EasyLanguage is all about. But if you want to delve deeper into EasyLanguage and become a programmer, we do encourage everyone to attend the EasyLanguage Bootcamp first, which is the one that gives you the foundation on EasyLanguage. And then once you have a good grasp on EasyLanguage, then take the Implementing Objects in EasyLanguage class, which goes into a lot more advanced functionality and other features that EasyLanguage makes possible. Ran, I see your question about if you paid for the class already and you paid full price, please send me an email because I'm going to have to cancel your registration and you're going to have to use the coupon to register again. My email, I'll send it through the chat window so that everybody has access to it. Give me just a moment. There it is. So if you paid for the class and you didn't get a chance to use the coupon, send me an email. Unfortunately, I'll have to unregister you, so I'll have to cancel your registration, offer you a refund on whatever card you use for payment, and then you'll have to register again and use the coupon, and you'll be billed the right price, okay? Nothing major. We can do that very easily, so just make sure you send me an email. The Introduction to EasyLanguage, which is the class we're going to do today, is designed to help you understand what EasyLanguage is all about. So these are our objectives. Let's go here to this slide. And even before we go to the objectives, it's very important that we go over this disclosure. The following presentation is for educational purposes only. Keep in mind that active trading is not suitable for everyone. And please take time to read the disclosure information that it's available as a PDF. And Michael Burke made reference to that PDF titled Important Disclosures. You can see it there in the chat window. By the way, you also have full control of the tabs that you have on this player. So let's say, for example, you want to remove the pane that is on the left. You can click on that middle button right there in the edge between what's being displayed on the screen and the participants panel. Let me show you what happens when I click on it. You see how that moves? So you can use that button to actually make your player bigger. I'm going to just leave it on for me because I'm recording the presentation and it moves the screen around, so I just have to leave it there for recording purposes. I did see a question earlier about the recording of this class. It is being recorded. In fact, we are taking advantage of high definition technology, so you'll be able to watch this video in HD later when I'm finished. It's just a matter of maximizing the video on your screen, and you should be able to see this in HD. During this class, we're going to explain what EasyLanguage is in simple terms and describe some of its operating principles. We're going to use EasyLanguage tools such as the TradeStation development environment and also the EasyLanguage dictionary. In this class, we're going to write a very simple indicator, a show me, and a very simple strategy, so you can see the different types of EasyLanguage documents that you can create. And we'll go over some grammar and some punctuation that is important in EasyLanguage. We'll also show you how you can modify some of the built-in analysis techniques and strategies that are already written in EasyLanguage. And finally, we'll show you where you can get help and additional information and how you can continue your journey of learning EasyLanguage. At the bottom right of this player, right on the corner, you're going to find a button that's labeled Documents. In there, you're going to find the class workbook. Mike already sent it through the chat, but let me go ahead and send it one more time. It's titled Introduction to EasyLanguage. The PDF has most of the information that we're going to cover today, and towards the back it has some of the exercises that we're going to do today, so you can see what the potential is when you start utilizing EasyLanguage. But let's get started with the first and most important explanation slide. First, what is EasyLanguage? Well, you can see we have a definition on this slide, and it says EasyLanguage is a combination of words, operators, and punctuation used to create rules or instructions based on market data which TradeStation follows to perform one or more analytical tasks. Well, if you read that in one breath, it's kind of a mouthful. So let's try to break it down. EasyLanguage does have certain rules. It does have certain vocabulary. So you're going to have to use the right grammar, the right punctuation, and the right syntax. But nothing you should worry about. EasyLanguage doesn't have that many rules, and once you become familiar with them, it's really pretty straightforward. When you start combining these words and operators and punctuation, you're going to start writing instructions that TradeStation is going to follow. Once those instructions are mixed with market data, which we already provide you with market data on charting and radar screen, once you combine EasyLanguage with data, then you get EasyLanguage responding to your instructions. And it's going to draw lines on a chart. It's going to put dots on your graph identifying certain bars. If it's a paint bar, it's going to change the color of the bar. Or if it's a strategy, it's even going to generate a buy or a sell. And of course, TradeStation is going to follow those instructions exactly as you wrote them. It is important to point out that EasyLanguage is the language used for all the analysis techniques and strategies that are built into TradeStation. They are already pre-written. You just insert an indicator, you insert a strategy, and EasyLanguage is in the background doing all the calculations. This is very important because it allows you to open any of the analysis techniques or the strategies that come in TradeStation and see how they're built. Maybe it'll give you ideas on how to copy some of the syntax and make it part of your own personal EasyLanguage document. Now, why should you invest the time and money? Because sometimes you've got to pay for a class to learn this programming language. What are the benefits of learning EasyLanguage? Well, there are numerous benefits, and we're just going to name a few. First, you're going to learn to translate your own trading ideas into a language that TradeStation platform can understand and utilize to plot indicators or execute orders. There's nothing more incredible than to have a simple trading idea and being able to translate that in something that TradeStation can understand and see your idea on a chart played out as an indicator, or see how that idea performs on historical data. Since all analysis techniques and strategies are already written in EasyLanguage, you're going to have immediate access to hundreds of already completed documents, so you can learn syntax and you can learn structure. Not only that, but you can also open up these documents and modify the EasyLanguage that's in there so that it can meet your own personal specifications. If you go to the EasyLanguage forums, you can open up somebody else's document, you can read and understand and learn from what others have written. Great tool. And I'll show you towards the end of the class, I'll show you where this forum is so you can benefit from what other TradeStation users have contributed when it comes to EasyLanguage. And last but not least, you're going to understand how TradeStation calculates indicators and strategies. And of course, it's going to help you design your analysis techniques and strategies so that it is more efficient and takes full advantage of all the TradeStation engine and calculating procedures. But before we start using EasyLanguage and learning a little bit of syntax, let's talk about the market data that you can use when writing your rules and your formulas. It doesn't matter whether you're a open, high, low, close bar user, or if you're a candlestick user, the data points are going to be the same. You have immediate access to the open, the high, the low, and the closing price. So you can use any of these price points. You also have access to the date and the time of the bar. We have volume, which you can reference the number of shares traded or the number of ticks or transactions that occurred. You can access options-related data. If you're an options trader, this is very important because you're going to be able to access implied volatility, option volume, option open interest. If you base ideas on fundamental data, you have access to hundreds of fundamental data fields and open interest on futures. So all these data points are available, but they're only applicable to the symbol that you're plotting. Which means that if you have a chart on stocks, you have access to fundamental data, but you won't have access to open interest. Same happens the other way around. You may have a chart of futures, a futures contract, and of course you're not going to have any fundamental data. So all these data points are available, but just keep in mind they're only applicable to the symbol that you have on the chart. One of the great things about data in TradeStation is that data is maintained and managed by TradeStation. So you don't have to be concerned about downloading data, the data server, how to manage the data, because TradeStation does that for you automatically. When you put an indicator on a chart analysis window, it's going to start calculating on the very first bar. So it doesn't matter how much history you put on a chart, whether it is 1 year, 2 years, 20 years of data, the indicator will start on the very first bar and it'll go bar by bar until it reaches the most current bar. Once your indicator reaches the most current bar, it'll calculate on every single tick. And this is done for you automatically. During this class, we're going to work on 8 different exercises that will introduce some of the easy language concepts for you. These 8 exercises are part of the PDF, so make sure that you take the PDF and save it to your computer for later reference. Let's start with the exercise number 1. All analysis techniques in TradeStation, analysis techniques and strategies have what we call inputs. Inputs is a way for you to interact with indicators and strategies and personalize them. Some of the text that you're going to write inside inputs will require a little bit of understanding of EasyLanguage. But let me show you some of the things you can do by formatting some of the indicators that come on TradeStation and making your own modifications. This is very interesting, and it's the first step of understanding what EasyLanguage can do for you. Let me go over here to TradeStation. I'm going to switch over to my TradeStation platform. You should be able to see it. I'm going to create a chart before we do anything else. With the recent version of TradeStation, if you haven't upgraded yet, we have removed the shortcut bar that you had here on the left-hand side, and we replaced it with the Trading Apps Launcher. Now, the Trading Apps Launcher is usually here on the left-hand side, so I can drag it here and put it here on the left-hand side. What I've done for this class, if I've moved it out of the way, and I dragged it over here to the top, right here in my title bar. I think it's less intrusive there. Okay, so I'm going to click on Trading Apps Launcher, and this has all the same buttons that you would actually that you had on the shortcut bar. From the Trading Apps Launcher, I'm going to click on Chart Analysis, and this will create a chart on my screen. Okay, this is by default. It came up on a Apple option. Let me go to Apple as a stock, AAPL, and hit Enter. All right, doesn't really matter what we're using, so I'm going to just bring up a daily chart of Apple. Perfect. Let me disable this information so that it doesn't distract us. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert an indicator on this chart. And I'm going to insert just a simple moving average, and you can see what you can do with it. So I'm going to come here to a moving average one line, and I'm going to put it on the chart. As you can see, it goes right on the chart. It starts calculating, and that's it. And I see your question, Andrej, about how does it identify the first bar. Well, if you scroll back on your chart, the first bar is the first data point that the indicator finds on the chart. In this particular indicator, notice how the moving average, which by default uses 9 bars, will use the first 9 bars of the chart to start calculating that value and plotting it going forward. So that's a way that it goes back to the chart and identifies the first data point that you've loaded on the chart. Okay, this is what I'm going to do to this indicator. I'm going to format the indicator and change the inputs. Let me remove the auto bar here on top so that we can maximize the space on my platform. So I'm going to click on the X in the top left. I'm going to double click on my indicator, my moving average. Let me move this up a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to click on the inputs. Inputs is a place where you're going to personalize your indicator. A few things you can do with the moving average. Most of you know that you can change the length, and that's the way that you change how many bars are being used in the calculation. But the interesting thing about EasyLanguage is that you can also change other things. In this case, the price. The price that is being used in this indicator is the closing price of every single bar. But what if I want to use something more representative of the complete bar? Not only the close, but let's say, for example, that I want to use the average of all the prices in the bar. Or maybe not all the specific tick prices, but the open, the high, the low, and the close. This is pretty cool because as you do in Excel, you can type in any formula in some of these inputs and allow a more complex calculation. Let me demonstrate. I'm going to open up a parentheses, and I'm just going to add the open. In EasyLanguage, you can just type in an O, and EasyLanguage or TradeStation knows that you're referencing the opening price of the bar. I'm going to add this to the high. I'm going to add it to the low, and I'm going to add it to the close. So OHLC, we add those together. I'm going to close my parentheses, and I'm going to do a forward slash and then a number 4. So instead of just using the closing price by itself, I've taken this formula, added all the 4 data points on one bar, and divided it by 4 so that I can get an average price for the bar. Does this work? Well, if I click OK, notice how it automatically takes the formula and it does the calculation for you. So most of the mathematical formulas that you can use in EasyLanguage are very similar to formulas that you would use in Excel. In TradeStation, you have some indicators that are labeled custom. Let me show you where those indicators are. I'm going to go to Insert, Indicator. And if you go to the C's, you're going to find some indicators called Custom 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines, and 4 lines. If you go to the Show Me selection, you are also going to find a Show Me that's called a Custom Show Me. And if you go to the paint bars, you're also going to find a custom paint bar. And these are intended for you to provide your own formula. Let me show you something that you can do. I'm going to go to Indicator, Custom 1 line, and before the indicator goes on the chart, I'm going to put a check here that says Prompt for Format so that I can format the formula before the indicator goes on the chart. I'm going to click OK. Now this will take me to the Format indicator, and I'm going to go to the Inputs tab again. Notice the formula in here. There's already a default formula. Of course, there's a starting point, but the intention here, since it's called a custom indicator, it's for you to provide the formula you want. Let me explain what you see here under value, because some of you may not be familiar with what's going on, especially the 10 that is inside the square brackets at the very end of this expression. Close, we know that it's referencing the closing price of the bar. But this second closing price is followed by a number 10 inside square brackets. And that is the way that you make a reference to historical data on a chart. So technically, what we're doing here is we're referencing the closing price of 10 bars ago. And that's exactly how you go back in history. You tell TradeStation inside square brackets, how many bars back do you want to reference? So looking at this formula, we're taking the close of 10 bars ago, and we are subtracting it from the close of the current bar. And you can use all types of formulas in this particular indicator. We can do something very simple. Let me show you. I'm going to do high plus, actually high minus the low. High minus the low gives you the range of the bar, correct? So what we can do is we can create an average of this. How do we create an average of the high minus the low? We have access to the EasyLanguage dictionary, and I did tell you that I was going to show you how you can use the EasyLanguage dictionary from within an indicator. So at any time, if you're looking for a basic formula that allows you to do a mathematical calculation, use a dictionary from within the indicator. Let me show you how that's done. I'm going to click on Dictionary. All right, that brings up the dictionary right here on my TradeStation platform. And I'm going to go to my user functions and see if I find an average here. And here it is. I click on average, and the good thing about the dictionary is that it tells me an example on how the average function is used. I may use the example just the way it is, or I may modify it a little bit. But the part that I'm interested in is this right here, average of, and notice how it opens up parentheses and it puts the value that you want to average and the number of bars that you want to use in that average. So very straightforward and very simple. So in my example, I can do something very similar. I'm going to come here, and instead of just doing the high and the low, I'm going to create an average of the high of the low, and that'll give me an average range for some historical time. I can type in the word average, open up the parentheses. The expression that I'm going to average is high minus the low, and then I add a comma and provide the number of bars that is being used for this particular average. I can say, give me a 10-bar average, and then close the parentheses. As simple as that. Once I click OK, I got this little, yeah. What happened is that I clicked on the custom show me. Notice here on the top it says custom show me, but I'm not going to use it, so I'm just going to cancel. I'm going to click OK here and OK here. For some reason, I did a multiple selection of the show me and the paint bar with the indicator, but that's fine. What I wanted to point out is that now at the bottom I have a custom one line that it's providing me an average of the range for the past 10 bars. And I didn't have to go to the programming of EasyLanguage to actually create this. I just use a custom one line and I provide a little sentence, a little bit of EasyLanguage, and this is what I can do. So feel free to go into the settings of indicators and go to the dictionary and see all the different mathematical formulas that you can use to modify and personalize those custom indicators. Let's go to exercise number 2. Let me switch over here to my slideshow. Okay, here on the right-hand side, I'm showing you some of the things that that you could have typed in the inputs tab. We did use the average function. In this case, notice how it's using the open and the close. In our example, we used the high and the low, but it's pretty much the same. Okay, let's go to exercise number 2. Exercise number 2 is going to show us how to create an indicator. And the description says that the indicator plots a line representing the real body of each candle. If you are familiar with candlesticks, you know that the real body is the relationship between the open and the close. The value that we get from this relationship is going to oscillate between positive and negative values. Why? Well, look at the example that's right there on that slide. You see a regular candlestick, but it's a red candle, which means that the open is at the top, where 16 is, and the close is at the bottom, where 12 is. We know that the real body is the difference between the open and the close. So in this particular case, the real body would be 4, because the difference between 16 and 12 is 4. But the fact that this is a down candle, I want to be able to express the real body as a negative 4 instead of just a plain 4. So what do? I have to use the exact order elements in my formula. I have to use close minus open. If I do open minus close, I'm still getting a difference, but it's not going to be a negative number. So if I'm consistent, I'm going to get negative numbers for down candles, and I'm going to get positive numbers for up candles. And this is that indicator that we're going to create from scratch. Okay, so are you ready? Let's go on to TradeStation and show you where we can start opening and creating our own custom indicators. I'm going to go here to my Trading Apps launcher that I've put here on the top of my TradeStation, and I'm going to click on EasyLanguage, and that's the way that you launch the development environment. Perfect. As you can see on top, it says TradeStation Development Environment. And I'm going to keep the explanations very simple so you can see that there is a reason why we called the language EasyLanguage. I'm going to go to File, New, and in this case, I'm just going to click on Indicator. By the way, these are all the types of EasyLanguage documents that you can create. In this class, we're going to create an indicator. We're going to create a show me, and we're going to create a strategy. Let's start with the indicator. The first thing that comes up when you create a new indicator is name. And for naming, we always suggest that you use some sort of naming convention. Why? Because when you when you assign a name to a custom indicator, we're going to treat that indicator as if it was part of TradeStation, and we're going to sort that indicator alphabetically with all the indicators that are already in TradeStation. So if you give your indicators different names, the more indicators you create, the harder it's going to be for you to find them. So if you create some sort of naming convention where the name always has a prefix that is exactly the same, then it'll be much easier to find your indicators because they're going to be grouped together. So in this class, I'm going to start this indicator, and I'm going to call this exclamation exclamation real body. Why am I using exclamation? It's a special character. I like it because when it gets sorted to the very top. So when you go to the list of indicators, you can just scroll all the way to the top and you're going to see that indicator up there. It also, if you start the name with exclamation all the time, all the exclamations are going to be put together and all the custom work is going to be so much easier to find. I'm not going to go over any, because of time, I'm not going to be able to explain some of the other details on this box other than here at the bottom where it says select template, I'm going to select none. There are some templates that allow you or that help you create EasyLanguage. They give you some sort of guidance and help in creating a certain type of indicator. But for this class, I'm going to select none because I just want a blank document. I click OK. And notice here on the top, I have a tab and it has a name that I specified, exclamation real body. So we're good. This is the way that you start creating your new indicator. Okay. We did say earlier that we wanted to create an indicator that calculates the difference between the open and the close. But we did say that the formula we wanted to use is close minus open. Two things. Notice that as soon as I start typing, there's this little box that shows up on my screen, which is called the autocomplete. What this box is doing is just giving you suggestions of what TradeStation thinks you're trying to type. Sometimes it saves you time to select from the box. Sometimes it's just there and you're just going to have to ignore it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit escape on my keyboard so that it goes away. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to work on a few things here. First of all, my font, it's very small and you're probably having a hard time reading what I have on my screen. And of course, TradeStation allows you to customize the font. So I'm going to go here to my Tools menu, and I'm going to go to Options, click on Font, and I'm going to make my font bold and 16, so it's easier to see on your screen. So hopefully that's much better for you. And you can do that on your own development environment to make it easier for you to see the font. I know that we start very small. And the reason for that is because as your EasyLanguage documents get more complex, you're going to have a lot of lines of code. So the more you can fit in one view, sometimes the better. Andrej, I see your question about the asterisk. The asterisk here on the right of the name just lets you know that the document is not saved yet. Once I save it, that asterisk should go away. Okay? So the formula is close minus open. We got that part clear. What we're going to do is we're going to create some container that is going to house the result of the close minus the open. So we're going to start using some programming syntax. And for this particular example, I'm just going to use a default container that we can use in EasyLanguage called value1. So I want to say value1 is going to be equal to the close minus the open. Now, why do we do that? We usually use containers like that, value1, which we call a variable, because it's so much easier throughout the code to make reference to value1 instead of having to type the formula all over again. So anytime I need to do the calculation close minus open, I'm just going to reference value1. It makes it much easier, and that's why we use that container. I want you to take notice of the words that are in blue. When you type something in EasyLanguage and it comes up in blue, it's because EasyLanguage recognizes the word. In EasyLanguage, you call that a reserved word. Why? Because it has a certain meaning, it has a certain purpose. EasyLanguage knows that when you type in close, it has to reference the closing price of the bar. And it knows that when you reference the word open, it references the opening of the price. So there are some words in EasyLanguage that already have some meaning, they already have some purpose, and EasyLanguage knows exactly what to do with them. So this is our main calculation. And before I continue, I have to show you some of very important syntax rules, grammar rules in TradeStation. Let me show you those rules before we continue. On my slideshow, these are some easy language elements that are important, and you're going to have to remember as you write your own custom indicators. First, easy language is not case sensitive. So you probably noticed, let me switch over to my code, that I used capital letters, I used lowercase, a mixture of both. It doesn't really matter. Easy language is not case sensitive. Also, line returns, line spacing, paragraph indents are for readability only. They do not affect the easy language instructions. So if I want to add a little bit more space in between words, if I want to press enter on my keyboard a couple times so I can provide a little bit more space between lines, that's fine. They're only used for readability. When easy language executes, it's going to skip most of those spaces. So it doesn't really matter if you add space to your code. Also, easy language does require the proper use of punctuation. And I'm going to teach you the very first punctuation rule in TradeStation or easy language that you're always going to have to remember. And that punctuation rule is one or more expressions are put together to form a statement. And every statement, what? Ends with a semicolon. Whenever you write a sentence or you write let's call it an instruction in easy language, you have to put a semicolon at the very end so that easy language knows that that's the end of your statement. Otherwise, if you don't put a semicolon, easy language is going to try to mix lines together and it's not going to make any sense. So it's a very important punctuation mark to put a semicolon at the end of my statement. So I'm going to go over to my easy language code and notice that I have close minus open and I need to close this statement with a semicolon. So let me go here and put a semicolon at the very end of this statement. Next, I'm going to hit enter 2 times. And as I said earlier, it doesn't really matter how much space you leave in between lines. Okay, so it's only for readability. Right now, I'm going to use a word in easy language that allows me to draw on the chart, and that word is plot. And I'm going to start this with a number 1. When easy language finds the word plot, it knows that it has to go to the chart and put something, draw a line, a dot, something on the graph. And that's what plot means. The fact that I put a number to it means that you can have multiple plots. And I'm pretty sure you've seen multiple plot indicators like the RSI. The RSI has 3 plots. You have the RSI line, you have the overbought level, and the oversold, right? So those are 3 lines. So when you create indicators, as you create plots, you are actually creating those individual lines. And that's why we put a 1 in it, because you can identify those plots by number. You can have up to 99 different plots. Of course, starting with plot 1, plot 2, plot 3. I haven't seen an indicator that uses, the max, which is 99 different lines, but I've seen indicators that use, a lot of lines. So this is our first plot, and when you create a plot statement in easy language, inside parentheses, you have to tell TradeStation what you're plotting, and this is usually a value. In this case, we're going to plot value 1. So take a look at what's happening here. First, we calculate value 1, and we tell easy language that value 1 is the same as close minus the open. And TradeStation is going to calculate that on every bar. Not only that, but then it goes to the second line and it says, oh, I need to plot. So whatever the result is of close minus open, it's going to have to find that spot on the chart and plot it. And it's going to do that bar by bar until it creates a line that is the exact calculation of the close minus the open. This is my plot statement. Again, I need to add a semicolon in order to tell easy language that this is the end of that other statement. So 2 statements, very simple, very straightforward. Right now, I'm going to put this on the chart. But before I put that on the chart, I have to do something that's really important, which is called verification. Before you can even use any indicator or any strategy that you create in easy language, you have to verify. Verification, for those that are not familiar with EasyLanguage, is a process by which EasyLanguage checks your syntax and is going to look for errors. It may not check, mathematical errors because you're the one who needs to make sure that your formula is correct, but it is going to check for syntax errors. There's different ways that you can verify. There is a button here on my toolbar that you can use for verify. Notice that I hover over it and it says verify, and it also has an F3 inside parentheses, which means that I can also use the function 3 key on the keyboard. Or I can right-click and go to verify. For this class, I'm just going to click on the check mark here on the top and verify the code. Once I verify, I get this little message that says, if this analysis technique or strategy is currently applied, it will automatically be recalculated. In simple words, it means that if this indicator is already in a chart, any changes that I make will be automatically transferred over to that new chart. It doesn't really matter. Right now, we don't have the indicator on any chart, so the message doesn't really apply. I'm going to put a check here that says, don't show me this again. That doesn't really matter. If I'm making changes to the code, of course I wanted to change across all my TradeStation. But you can leave the message on if you want. It's just telling you, giving you a little warning that wherever this indicator is, it's going to be recalculated. Once I click OK, I want you to take a look here at the bottom where it says 0 errors, 0 warnings. Didn't find any problem. I also want you to click here at the bottom, not click, I want you to look at the bottom where it says saved and verified. These are two indications that the indicator we created doesn't have any errors or syntax errors, and it's already saved in the list of indicators in our TradeStation. Let me force an error so you can see how it looks like. I'm going to go inside plot 1. I'm going to add a space between the word plot and the number 1. Let me click on the check mark one more time. And notice here at the bottom, it's giving me a whole sequence of errors. It's telling me this word cannot start a statement because plot is usually tied in with a number and there's no spaces in between. But I want you to take a look here at the bottom. The indicator is saved, but notice how it says not verified. So it's not until you actually verify an indicator that you'll be able to use it on a chart. All right, enough with the verification. I'm going to remove that space that I added, and I'm going to click on the checkbox or the check mark here on top to verify my code again. And I'm going to go to TradeStation to see what this indicator looks like. All right, so TradeStation, where are you? Here it is. Let me clean out my chart. In fact, I'm just going to delete it and create a new one. So Trading Apps, Chart Analysis. Okay, this is an Apple chart. I'm going to bring it as a daily chart. I'm going to remove these little trades. And I'm going to go to Insert, Indicator. Take a look at the whole list of TradeStation indicators, and you're going to see that on the very top, if I scroll all the way to the very top, I have my indicator which I just created. Underscore, exclamation mark, real body. As easy as just typing 2 lines, we just created our first indicator. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to uncheck the box here that says prompt for format because I don't want to format the indicator. And I'm just going to click OK. And the indicator goes there at the very bottom. Is the indicator calculating correctly? Well, it's a matter of you taking a look at the value and seeing if the formula is correct. Notice here on the right-hand side, the difference right now is 0.65 on the negative side. If we look at the current bar, let me just move this a little bit to the left. If you look at the current bar, notice how the open is 554.90 and the close is 554.25. So the exact difference of 65 cents on the downside. So it is calculating correctly. So whenever you do a mathematical formula, we do recommend that you go back to the indicator and see if it's being calculated correctly. One thing that I would like on this indicator, which you're going to see it's very easy to do, is to add a 0 line on this plot. Why? Because sometimes you got negative numbers, but some other times you have positive numbers. How do I do that? Very simply. Let me go over to my development environment. I'm going to add a second or a third line here on my code. And I'm just going to say plot 2. And inside parentheses, I'm just going to type in the number 0. It doesn't get any harder than that. Once you put a 0 in parentheses, the indicator knows that it has to plot at 0 every single bar. And it's going to create this line horizontally at 0. I made changes to the code, so I'm just going to click on the check mark here on top to verify. If I go back to my trade station, notice how I have a beautiful blue line at 0, and I can see how my indicator goes from negative to positive and positive to negative. Let's take this one step further. I'm going to go to exercise number 3. Exercise number 3 is using functions. We're going to modify our indicator so that instead of giving you the raw difference between the open and the close, to create an average over a specified number of bars. So let's go ahead and see how that works. From my development environment, I'm gonna use the exact same document that I'm working on. From my EasyLanguage document, I'm going to go over here on the right-hand side, and you should have this as well. There's a dictionary bar. When you hover over dictionary, the dictionary rolls out, and you can start searching for words. But instead of searching, let me open up the section for EasyLanguage, and I can go ahead and scroll down and look for user functions. You can experiment with all the different categories under EasyLanguage, but the one that I want right now is user functions, and you can see all the user functions here on the top right. So make sure that you spend some time here. Because of time, I can't really show you a lot of things here on this list, but I have the function average. When you highlight anything here on the top right, you're going to see that in the bottom box, it gives you a summary of what the function does. It tells you the parameters that are needed for the function to work. But the best thing is that it provides an example on how the function is used. We saw this same function in the dictionary, but we accessed it from the format indicator dialog. But it takes you to the same place. So what I'm doing here is encouraging everyone in this class to spend time in the dictionary and see all the things that you can use. I have to keep the class simple so that we don't get so involved in an indicator, and I'm going to use the average function. I'm going to come here on my mathematical calculation, and I'm going to type in the word average. Take a look at the word average and see how it's different color. Every time you type in something in the EasyLanguage document, and it comes up in purple, like the word average, or magenta, if you want to call that magenta, you know that TradeStation or EasyLanguage has recognized it as a function. And function has an underlying programming that is already set for you, and you don't have to worry about what's inside of it because it'll do it for you automatically. I'm going to create an average, so I'm going to open up the parentheses, and the value that I'm going to average is the close minus the open, and I'm going to average that result for a period for a length of 10 bars. So this is not just raw close minus open bar per bar. It's taking the close minus the open of 10 different bars and creating an average of that. Very simple. I'm going to click on the check mark here on top, verify that, did not find any errors. And I want you to take a look at what happened to my indicator. And this is something that happens automatically. It recalculates the indicator if it's already applied to the chart. So when I look at the chart, notice that now the indicator doesn't look like an EKG. It actually, we can actually identify some trends. In fact, if you look at Apple, notice how when the price activity is trending up, notice how the indicator is also on the positive side. And whenever you see some downtrends, like for example recently in the past couple weeks, then you see how the indicator turns on the negative side. So maybe we're on into a more interesting idea, something that makes more sense, something that we can maybe explore and turn into something more like a trading idea. So let's go to exercise number 4 and see what else can we do to this indicator. Exercise number 4 allows us to create alerts, and that's something very simple to do. Because one of the things that you would want to happen is that whenever that line that we just created crosses from positive to negative or negative to positive, what about generating an alert? That would be cool. In fact, if we go back to the chart, yeah, it's very pretty, the indicator, but let's say that we apply this indicator to 20 different symbols. You're not going to be able to look at all the 20 symbols at the same time, but setting up an alert can give you some sort of sound or pop-up window saying, hey, Apple just crossed over to the negative side. Maybe it's time to take a look at it, you know? So let's go ahead and change the code so that you can see how you can generate an alert from EasyLanguage. This is not very complex. In fact, I'm just going to say it in English. If value 1 crosses over 0, notice that it's just straight instructions. If value 1, which is the result of this formula, is value 1 crosses over 0, then alert. When EasyLanguage finds the word alert, it'll trigger it. When you format the indicator, you can choose what type of alert you want. If it's a sound, a pop-up window, but all you need in EasyLanguage is the word alert. That's what triggers the alert. This statement is finished, so I need a semicolon at the very end. And I do the other side, because you can have multiple alerts in the same indicator. If value 1 crosses under 0, then alert. Notice that I'm capitalizing the word alert. It doesn't really matter. You know, I'm just being a little bit, you know, flashy here. So I can just type in alert and it works the same way. You can use all lowercase, all capital letters. It doesn't really matter. EasyLanguage is not case sensitive. So now we've created this syntax in our indicator that whenever it happens, whenever there's a crossover either on the upside or the downside, you're going to generate an alert. I verify. And of course, we would have to find a stock that is crossing at this time for the alert to be generated. If we look at Apple right now, Apple is on the negative side, but it hasn't crossed over to positive. And alerts, when you write alerts in EasyLanguage, those are only triggered in real time. Okay? Now let's say that we want to identify historical alerts. We want to be able to identify the bars where a crossover occurred, so that maybe with a visual we can see if that would have been a good trading opportunity. Let's go over to the slideshow because we're going to transfer over to exercise number 5. We're going to create a show me that will identify the bars that the bars where the average crosses over, where the average of the real body crosses over 0 or crosses under 0. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go over to my development environment. This is not going to be an indicator, so I need to create another type of EasyLanguage. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy a piece of this code. I'm going to copy this formula because if I'm going to create historical alerts, the formula doesn't change. It's exactly the same one. So I'm going to right-click on the highlight, copy, and then I'm going to go to File, New, and click on Show Me. And this is going to be called exclamation real body cross. It's going to identify real body cross. The template is none. I click OK. And here I'm just going to right click and paste. So I've pasted the same formula and I'm going to use it for this Show Me. And the Show Me has a very interesting syntax. The Show Me is a conditional analysis technique that only puts a dot if the condition is true. What is the condition that I'm looking for? Well, if value 1 crosses under 0, then I'm going to say plot 1 low. Then you explain a couple things that happened here. The carriage return that I did after the word then and the indentation that I did on the word plot is not necessary. It's only for readability. Remember that spaces and carriage returns are not they're not read by EasyLanguage. I could have just left this on the same line and it would have been the same result. But usually when you create an if-then statement, I like to have the condition on top and then the result on the second line with an indentation so that you know that one is a condition of the other. And we have the semicolon at the very end. On the other side, if value 1 crosses over 0, then plot 2 high. I haven't explained the word low and the word high, but in a Show Me, whenever you create a plot, you have to tell the Show Me where to put the dot. So when it crosses under, I want to put the dot on the low. And when it crosses over, I want to put the dot on the high. That's exactly what this is just saying. We're not looking for a specific value like an indicator. In a Show Me, if it meets the condition, I want to identify the bar, and you have to tell the Show Me where to put the dot. Let's verify this. I'm going to click on the check mark on top. My document is saved and verified, as I can see here at the bottom. And now I can just put that Show Me on the chart. Let's go and see what it looks like. On the chart, I'm going to go to Insert, click on Show Me, and if I scroll all the way to the very top, I see my real body cross. I can change, the formatting if I change the style and so forth, but I'm just going to leave the defaults. And I'm just going to click OK. Notice how my chart is now displaying some dots, blue dots and red dots. And the dots will correspond to the crossovers, which is really interesting. Notice that in this area where you see no dots is because the indicator was on the negative side all that time. But as soon as the indicator crossed over to the positive side, we get a blue dot. It returns and it crosses over to the negative side, and we get a red dot. But the following bar, it crosses over to the positive side again, and we get another blue dot. So the Show Me is identifying every time that the indicator crosses over 0, either up or down. That helps you visualize on all the historical data that you've loaded on the chart to see exactly where those turning points are. Notice that when the market is sideways, we get whipsawed. That's because there's no specific trend. But once a trend is established, like over here, we get an excellent trade. But now we sit here and we say, okay, perfect. We got historical alerts identified. Now, what do? How do we know that this is something that is worth trading? Notice that this is a very simple idea. We haven't really created something fancy out of this particular example. But we're going to keep it simple so that you can see how you can turn this simple idea into a trading strategy. What we're going to do is we're going to use this concept and say, okay, when we get a crossover, like right here, this is a crossover, we're going to take a long trade. And when we get a cross under, we're going to take a short trade and see how much money that idea would have made using Apple on this historical chart. So we're going to turn this idea into a simple strategy. And that's going to be our exercise number 6. When you go here to exercise number 6, it creates a strategy. As you can see in the description, it will generate a long entry when the real body oscillator crosses over the 0 line, and it'll generate a short entry when the real body oscillator crosses over the 0 line. Very simple, very straightforward. Let's see how we can create that on our EasyLanguage development environment. So I'm going to come back here. I already have the indicator. I already have the show me. Now I need a strategy. So I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to click on Strategy so that I can create my orders. The name of the strategy is going to be Real Body Strategy. Not a fancy name, but I just needed a name so that we can find it in the list of strategies. The template, again, I'm just going to select None. That way it's just a blank document. And I'm going to click OK. I'm going to use the exact same formula from my indicator and my show me. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to click on paste. That's going to paste the exact same formula. The only thing that changes is what happens after that. Am I plotting or am I buying and selling? In this case, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't switch over to my development environment. Sorry about that. I just went to New, File, New, and I clicked on Strategies. Okay? Same way that you do with an indicator or a show me. You click on Strategy, you give it a name, and what I did is I just copied and pasted the exact same formula that I used in the indicator and the show me. And I was saying that the only thing that changes is what happens after that. Am I plotting or am I buying or selling? In this case, I'm just going to buy and sell. I'm going to do it this way. If value 1 crosses over 0, then notice that this is the crossover. I'm going to buy next bar at market. This is a market order. You can use limit, you can use stop. And as I said earlier, we're going to keep the example simple. But notice that this is our order right here. Buy next bar at market. As soon as you see a crossover, buy. Let's do the other side. If value 1 crosses under 0, then sell short next bar at market. Okay, so this is a strategy that goes long and short, and it's going to reverse my position depending on where the indicator is going. I emphasize again that this is not a complete strategy. This is to demonstrate how you can take a simple idea and turn it into something that generates buys and sells in order for you to measure if your idea is something that it could generate some money or not. All right, so let's go ahead and verify this concept. And the next step would be to put it on the chart. I'm going to go back to the chart. I'm going to go to Insert, Strategy. And the strategy should be part of the strategy components in TradeStation. I scroll all the way to the very top, and there I see my strategy, exclamation, real body strategy. I highlight it. I don't have to format it, so I'm going to uncheck the checkbox for prompt for format, and I'm going to click OK. Notice that with this strategy, the chart is displaying my entry and exit signals. Red arrows are my short entries, blue arrows are my long entries. My trades are connected, showing me if the trade was profitable or not. So by adding just 4 lines of code, we were able to create this idea into a strategy. Not only that, but now I have full access to all the reporting and all the performance measures that are available for strategies. I can go to the View menu and I can click on Strategy Performance Report and see a full report on this strategy that I created myself. All right? Wow. The report is not that bad. Of course, anything that's created on Apple just magically turns into a profit. Okay, so what I'm saying, this is not a strategy that you should go and trade because it's not a complete strategy. There's no risk management, there's no stop losses, there's nothing protecting you from the risk involved in trading this strategy. But you can see that we turned it into a strategy in 5 minutes. Okay. Let me show you some other cool things you can do with EasyLanguage. And I know that I'm running out of time, but this is so many interesting things that you can do with EasyLanguage that it's a shame not to mention them because you'll really enjoy doing those things with the custom indicators and built-in indicators that come in TradeStation. Let me create a new chart. We're going to do exercise number 7. So we have just a couple of exercises to finish this class. On exercise number 7, let me show you. This is adding plots to an indicator. And the idea here is that sometimes you want to modify an existing indicator to make it personalized, to make it calculate things that you would in other platforms have to calculate manually. So here I'm gonna go to TradeStation and I'm going to add just a simple RSI indicator, and this will be an RSI. The RSI by default, you can see it right there. The RSI indicator calculates and plots a line. And sometimes it goes over the overbought, sometimes it goes below the oversold. What I want to do is, instead of just having the regular RSI, oh, sorry about that. For some reason, yeah, I clicked on the tab and it didn't switch over. So thank you for letting me know when you don't see, so that I can switch back and forth. Thank you guys for letting me know. This is the RSI at the bottom. You can see it's just a simple and straightforward RSI, but sometimes I want to create an average. I don't want to use a straight RSI calculation. I want to create an average of that RSI line. So what do I do to the indicator to make it my own? Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the development environment. Okay? And I'm going to open up the RSI EasyLanguage document. I'm going to click on the open folder here on my toolbar. And I'm going to look for RSI. RSI under the indicator list. All right, here's the RSI right here. I click on it and I open it. This will open the EasyLanguage code for my RSI. And notice how it has 3 plots. First plot is the RSI, my RSI. And this indicator is called my RSI, which is great because we are going to use that same name. Plot 2 is the overbought and plot 3 is the oversold. Before I modify this indicator, and this is something that I suggest everyone in this class does, create a copy of the indicator you want to modify. Otherwise, you're going to lose the original, and you don't want to do that. If you're learning EasyLanguage, it's very likely that you're going to mess things up. I've messed things up all the time. So before you modify something in TradeStation, make sure you create a copy of it so that any changes are made in the copy and not the original. How do I make a copy of the RSI? Simply, File, and I click Save As. Save As, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the very beginning of the RSI, and guess what? I'm just going to add an exclamation mark at the very beginning. And I know that the indicator that has the exclamation mark at the beginning is my personal RSI. I click OK. And that way I've just created a copy of the RSI. Any changes that I make now are done on this exclamation RSI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here at the end of plot number 3, hit enter, and this will be plot number 4. And plot number 4, guess what it's going to be? It's going to be an average. Notice that I type in the function that I used in one of my exercises. It's going to be an average. I open up parentheses again, and the average is going to be of my RSI. Where did I get my RSI from? I got it from here. See, plot 1 is the actual RSI line. And I put it here because that's the value that I want to average. I add a comma, and I want to average that for 10 bars. I close my parentheses. Notice that I have 2 opening parentheses, and at the very end I have 2 close parentheses. And a semicolon. Do not forget the semicolon because that's the end of your statement. I'm going to see if this verifies. I'm going to click on the green check mark on top. And it does. Notice how it's saved and verified. So this is creating an average of the RSI. Now let me go over to my TradeStation because now you're going to see what it looks like. This is the original RSI. That's not the one that I want to use any longer. So I'm going to click on that RSI and remove it. What I'm going to insert now is the indicator that I just created. And how is it called? Exclamation RSI, which is right here on the very top. I click OK, and voila. You have the RSI indicator, but it has a moving average by default already incorporated into it. So you can do that with any indicator that comes in TradeStation. The great thing is that all the indicators that are in TradeStation are already in EasyLanguage. It makes it much, much easier. All right. So that's one of the things that I wanted to show you. Modifying analysis techniques and strategies that come in TradeStation. Last exercise. And I'm sorry if this is a little rushed, but you'll have a chance to look at the archive and play it at your own pace. But I do want to go over this last exercise because it showcases one of the greatest tools in TradeStation, which is radar screen. The same indicator that you used or that we created here in this class, you can use it in radar screen. What for? Well, radar screen allows you to put the indicator and apply it to hundreds of symbols and monitor those symbols in real time. So let's go ahead and put it on radar screen. Let me switch over to TradeStation. I'm going to go to my Trading Apps Launcher and click on radar screen. All right, this is my radar screen window. I didn't have it set up previously, so I'm going to insert a symbol list that comes in TradeStation. This is the TradeStation symbol lists. I'm going to go to the index components, and for this exercise, I'm going to use the Dow Jones Composite Index, which has about 65 symbols. All right, those are the 65 symbols of the Dow Composite. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the indicator that I created. So I'm going to go to Insert, Indicator, and Real Body is right there listed at the very top of my list. I'm going to add it. I'm going to move it all the way down, right after volume, and click OK. One of the great things about radar screen is that it uses a data interval. Notice that column that I'm highlighting right now. Right now it's set to 5 minutes, which means that all the symbols that are listed here are loading historical data on a 5-minute interval to be able to calculate the real body indicator. Now that's very powerful. It means that every row that you see here, AAP, AES, ALK, every row it's a chart. And you have an indicator applied to that chart. But let me take this one step further. Plot 1 is my real body average. Plot 2, if you remember, is 0, all the way down. So I'm going to remove plot 2. How do I do that? Right-click on the header, Show Hide Plots, and uncheck plot 2. That way, you can disable it. You're not actually removing it from the code. You're just disabling from the view. I'm also going to change the data interval. I don't want to use 5-minute charts. I want to use daily charts. How do I do that? Well, I can click on the symbol header to select all the symbols, and I can click on this toolbar button and change them to daily. Notice how the interval now is changed to daily. I also need some additional historical data because the real body indicator by default doesn't load a lot of history. And in order for my radar screen to calculate correctly, it needs a little bit more of information. But that's very simple to do. I'm going to right-click on the column for my real body, and I'm going to format the real body for all symbols so that it applies to all symbols at the same time. And on the Format Symbol dialog, here you see a checkbox that says Load Additional Data for Cumulative Calculations. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add additional bars. In this case, I'm just going to add 20 additional bars. See, my indicator, the average is about 10 bars. So I'm just going to add an additional 10 and make it 20 so that it has a good cushion of information and it can calculate correctly. I click OK. And now the cool thing about radar screen, because I want to be able to identify the stocks that are crossing over or crossing under my zero line, because those are my turning points. See, those are the turning points that we found in Apple, and those are the ones that gave us a good report on the strategy performance report. But now I have radar screen, which is monitoring 65 symbols simultaneously, and it's going to tell me which one is crossing at this moment. How do I do that? I right-click on the column again. I go to Format Real Body for all symbols. I click on Alerts, and I'm going to enable the alert for that column, and I'm going to tell it to alert continuously. And this alert is going to work because if you remember, we added some alert conditions to our indicator. And we told it when it crosses over, alert, and when it crosses under, alert. This is what controls that alert. I'm going to use this feature that said none. No, I don't want any sounds. I don't want any pop-up messages. What I want is some little markers to show up whenever there's a crossover. So let's go ahead and see how that works. I'm going to click OK and take a look at my radar screen. For every cell that you see a little blue triangle, that is an alert enabled. That means that that cell is monitoring the alert criteria tick by tick. And as soon as there is a tick that meets the criteria, you will get alerted. How does it get alerted? How do you get alerted? Well, you get these yellow markers. All the cells where you see a yellow marker, that means that we've found a real-time alert. Is that true? Should I believe my radar screen? Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look. I'm going to move this over. I'm going to delete this chart that I have here. I have the same indicator on this chart, so I'm just going to leave it there. Okay? So I have the chart that has the indicator, and I have the radar screen that has the same indicator. I'm going to link the two windows together so that when I click on any of the symbols here that is triggering an alert, I should get a chart. So I'm going to click on AEP. Notice how the chart updates to that symbol. And notice down here, a beautiful thing is happening. Notice how that red line is crossing over the 0. I can click on the next symbol, BA. I click on BA, which is Boeing. Notice how it was on the positive side, but on this current bar, it is crossing below 0. So with this indicator, you can turn it on and see which stocks are triggering the alert real time. Now, I have 65 symbols here. So I would have to scroll down and up to find the ones that are triggering the alert. You can save time by enabling something called sorting. If you right-click on the radar screen and you go to Format Page, and you go to the Sorting tab, you can tell the radar screen to sort your symbols simultaneously and every so often. So I'm going to click here and say, I'm going to go to my real body alert. Notice that there's an indicator. My indicator is listed here, and it has the word alert in parentheses. So it's using the alert as a sorting mechanism. So any symbol that has the alert triggered is going to be sorted to the very top. And I'm going to keep the data sorted, and I'm going to tell TradeStation to keep the data sorted every 10 seconds. And I'm going to click OK. This way, all the symbols that are triggering the alert and have a yellow marker are going to be sorted to the very top. And visually, I can see which ones are those symbols. This is a great tool, and you can set it on any time interval that you want so that you can get alerted when something gets triggered. All right, what's the next step? What is next here? EasyLanguage seminars. This is just a taste. We just scratched the surface of what you can do with EasyLanguage. We have 2 great seminars in our curriculum, the EasyLanguage Bootcamp, which is the next step after this class, and we also have Implementing Objects in EasyLanguage, which is a more advanced class. We're offering you that coupon. The coupon you see there is also available in Documents. I'll make sure to reference that coupon on the screen again. It gives you a $50 discount towards your registration fee. And the next class is next week, January 23rd and January 24th. I encourage everyone to join, and we're going to learn easy language from the very basics. By the end of the class, the second day, you should consider yourself an easy language programmer because the class does give you that foundation that you can build upon. For those that want to take a more advanced class, we have the Implementing Objects in Easy Language, which is upcoming in March, and I'll tell you the dates in just a moment. By the way, the coupon, even though it says it's only for the easy language, it applies to the Implementing Objects class as well. Don't tell anyone I said that, but you can take advantage of that coupon and also use it for Implementing Objects in Easy Language. It gives you a very nice $50 discount. If a class is not something that it's for you, if you are more of a student that likes to learn on your own, we have two books. We have the Easy Language Home Study course, and we have the Easy Language Objects Home Study course. The content of the books compared to the content of the class is very similar, although the books do have a little bit more detailed information. I believe they have a little bit more exercises as well. So it all depends on what type of student you are. You choose the format you like, if it's a class, if it's a book. The link where the books are is right here in the chat. Easy Language Books, if you're interested in reading a little bit more about the books. But here are our classes. We have two boot camps. We have one coming up next week, January 23rd and 24th. If you cannot make that one, we have another one March 13th and 14th. And the Implementing Objects in Easy Language class is upcoming April 10th and 11th. Take a note that once you take the class once, there's a policy here that you can retake the class for free if you've already paid for it. So keep that in mind just in case you want to attend the class and you want a refresher. You can always take the class at no charge. Matthew, yes. For those that are joined this class, the coupon will apply to those classes as well. I'm going to remove the coupon towards the end of this month so that we can always make a new one available. So if you want to register for any of the classes, make sure you do it before the end of January so that you can take advantage of that offer. Unfortunately, the coupon is not available for the books. It's only available for the online classes, so I apologize for that. The class, Dennis, right now the cost for the class is $249. So if you use the coupon, you'll get the 2-day class for $199. Okay. Perfect. All right, that's pretty much the end of our class. So take a note of the classes that are upcoming. And I just want to conclude this event by saying that it was a great pleasure spending this time with all of you. For me, Mike, and everyone else here at TradeStation, thank you very much for attending this class. Have a great day.